Guys, it is Summerween and I have got a stack of recommendations here. Some on my TBR and some that I've read. I'm trying to do like an equal balance. So think of this video as sort of a half and half. Half mini reviews, half books, what I'm looking forward to. Hi everyone, if you're new here, my name is Anna Reads Horror. I read and review all types of horror books, from the brutal extreme ones to the sort of cozy horror. I am here, I'm your gal. If you have just come across my channel and you do like it, be sure to give me a follow. I would highly appreciate that. It lets me know that you guys are liking these types of videos. And yeah, be sure to comment what type of video you're wanting in future. I'm always here for the recommendations. So today, let's just go straight into the video and let's go through a stack of Summerween reads. So half of these, like I say, are on my TBR and I will be reading over summer. And half of them I have read and I want to recommend to you guys to add to your Summerween reading list. Guys, I've just finished filming and I just want to interrupt this quickly by saying I am so sorry about my nose. My nose is blocked. Like, I am actually just recovering from, well, I've been to a festival. So I came back and I have had festival flu all week. So yeah, if I sound like really nasally and a bit like my voice is a bit funny, that is why. Yeah, apologies about that. The book that inspired this is actually a book that I just finished yesterday and I read it in one sitting. Absolutely loved it. So let's go into the books that I have read so far and then we'll go into the books that I am recommending or reading further on in the video. So these are just going to be short mini reviews to try and get you to read these books and try and inspire you to read these books because they're all bangers. Highly recommend them and they would be perfect for summer. I don't know, like I think of Summerween style books. Slashers definitely up there because you've got all like the summer camp style, like Friday the 13th, Cabin in the Woods style vibes. That to me is a Summerween read. Also monsters, werewolves, made up monsters, that is perfection. And anything that's just easy to consume, easy to read, because I feel like Summerween, you just want something that is easy to digest. You want to put your feet up in your garden or on a beach, wherever you may be, and you just want to chill out with your book. Maybe a cheeky drink as well, you know what I'm saying? So these are not going to be too hard to read. I read a lot of books that can be quite serious and transgressive, but these are definitely not those. These are just the fun side of horror. And yeah, just stay tuned for some great recommendations. I will be time stamping this video as well, so if you just want to skip to like another book because you don't feel like that one might be for you, be sure to do that because there's a hell of a lot of recommendations in this video. Anyway, let's get started because I'm rambling. First book that inspired this, and I read, like I say, yesterday, all in one sitting. It was an audio book, so I don't have the physical copy. That is A Summer of Monsters by David Sodergren. Now, if you haven't read a David Sodergren book before and you're a horror fan, let me tell you, you're missing out. If you are familiar with his work, this one slightly is a little bit more tame than his usual books. However, that does not detract from how good it is. This to me felt like a cozy coming of age story with a hell of a lot of gore. When I say a hell of a lot of gore, there's not like, again, there's not a load of gore compared to his usual books. And the gore does come in towards the end of the book. But the characters are just so well done. So we basically start with a father and a daughter They have just lost, so the daughter, Lucy, she's just lost her mom. He's just lost his wife. And they want a fresh start. So they move from Edinburgh in Scotland to a town called Hellsbridge. Now, you kind of think the clue's in the name, Hellsbridge. This is why I love David Sodergren, because his books are quite obviously campy in ways, but they remind me of like old classic horror. So like 80s, 90s horror. And yeah, so the town's called Hellsbridge. They move into this house. It's a bit creepy. It's next to the woods. And from the first night, Lucy starts hearing some weird sounds. These like clicky clacky sounds. And she suspects that something's off from the get-go, to be fair. So I don't know if I said, but Lucy is coming of age. So she's 16. She's just starting a new school. She's got like loads of troubles with like, you know, friends. Like she feels insecure. So you've got like your typical high school setup in this as well. So you get to meet some like people from high school, and like you've got like the popular kid, you know, the horrible shitty kid, bullies, all that kind of thing. And Lucy is struggling to make friends, but she comes across this guy. Well, she comes across this guy and she falls for him. So yeah, all this kind of thing is happening. And whilst this is happening, you get the whole creepy forest situation going on. The dad is struggling as a writer. He's trying to write his next book. And yeah, they are kind of struggling financially and just to try and move on. So you've got like sort of elements of grief, coming of age. You've got monsters in this. I don't want to really reveal more because, you know, that'll be like spoiler territory. But what I loved about this is the characters. And I was just, I don't know, David Sodergren is just so, like, I've been reading him for a couple of years now, and I think this is one of his newer books. And as his books have progressed, and as he's released more books, because he like literally does everything. Like he edits his own books, he publishes his own books. You can tell how much better he's getting, and I just think it's just the way he writes. It's just so good, and it's so engaging. And yeah, so this book, it gets towards the end and just shit goes down. And that's usually the case in a David Sodergren book. Yeah, like I say, this one is not, do not read this one if you are wanting more of a extreme brutal read, because that will not satisfy that craving, should I say. But it is definitely a cozy Summerween read in my eyes. And I think because you've got like the whole monster element as well. Oh my God. Don't even get me started with that, because that is so... I don't want to reveal anything to do with the monsters, but yeah, it is such a good book. And like I say, I read the audiobook. Highly recommend the audiobook. You have... obviously, like the Scottish accent, you've got a lot of Scottish dialect in there, and it just seems so authentic to how children would act. Well, when I say children, I mean like teenagers. Yeah, you've got creepy small town, set in Scotland. I always think that books set in Scotland, horror books set in Scotland especially, they're just a win-win for me. And I think the thing is, with David Sodergren as well, I think what makes his books so unique is the fact that they are set in Scotland. But to me, I feel like a lot of the books that are set in Scotland, or like horror in general that's set in the UK, tends to lean in more of like the gothic and the folk subgenre, whereas like his books are quite pulpy and gory. So I really do think they are quite unique. Well, they are unique. And I will be reading every single book that he has written. I have probably read about, I'd say, like a good 8 so far. He also, fun fact as well, which I only found out a couple of years ago, maybe a year or so, but he also writes under the pen name Carl John Lee. So if you've read any of Carl John Lee's books as well, that's David Sodergren. So that's a very interesting fact. I feel like he is starting to write more books under David Sodergren now in general. I feel like the Carl John Lee pen name was for like the more extreme books, because all of Carl John Lee's books are extreme. But we are starting to see more extreme David Sodergren books as well. But yeah, first book, highly recommend. Let's move on to the second book, which is actually a brand new release. This comes out in, I believe it comes out in July. Actually, I've got the copy here. So it's Chuck Tingle's Fabulous Bodies. So yeah, I got sent this as an ARC. Thank you very much to Titan for sending me this. Actually, it comes out in August. The 11th of August, it says. This book. I have read one other Chuck Tingle before, and that is Camp Damascus. I didn't love that one as much, I'm not going to lie. I did at the start, and I felt like it kind of went off on a little bit of a tangent. His books, I would describe his books as quite quirky, quite weird, queer horror. Not that weird and queer is like synonymous with each other, but I'm saying his books are just, they're just out there a little bit, and I just love them because you just never really know what direction they're going to go in. And I guess that's what I didn't really like about Camp Damascus, because I was expecting something else. But I think that can work with a lot of other books. Like if you go in with no expectations and you're just willing for the story to like take you in directions you were not expecting, then I would recommend his books. So this book, we start off with a fashion influencer named Poppy Stringer. And she is a grave robber by night, influencer by day, I guess. And yeah, she's quite dodgy. Like, obviously, she's a grave robber. And one job she gets happens to be for this really famous rock star called Eddie... sorry, I'm so bad with names. Eddie Michaels. So she kind of looks up to him, like she is a fan of his. And then she finds out, obviously, that he's died. So, yeah, she's there to retrieve his body and move it to wherever she's going to move it to. Like, she gets paid to deliver these dead bodies to, like, where they're not supposed to be. But Eddie isn't dead. He wakes up and, yeah, she's not expecting that, obviously. She thinks he's dead. And then a whole bunch of stuff happens. This book is just, like I say before in the intro, it is just a fun time. I think if you are just wanting something that's quite easy to read and you're just in it for a good time, I would definitely check this book out. It's set in Palm Springs as well, which does obviously help. It's set in a sunny location and you can just visualise everything that is happening. It is just a fun time. Do I think this book has a couple of issues with it? Yeah, sure. I think there's a couple of things that are quite, for me, not as explained as they could have been. But if you just go into this book and you're just wanting a fun, gory, random read as well, it is definitely random. I definitely recommend this one. I think if you're into a more well-known comparison would probably be books by Clay McLeod Chapman. If you've read any of his books, I kind of think Chuck Tingle and Clay McLeod Chapman are like sort of the same. I'd say Chuck Tingle's a bit more random and a bit more weird. But yeah, if you're into your weird horror, definitely check this one out. He also writes under, well, he doesn't write under a different pen name, but he writes a different type of book as well. I think he writes a lot of like erotic books as well, or erotic horror. I don't know what the subgenre is, to be fair, but I will clip in a couple of examples. And I just absolutely am obsessed with all the names of his other books. I have actually read one, which it's something to do with a coffee. I forgot the name because it's so It's so long-winded, but it's like long-winded in a funny and creative way. So yeah, same author, obsessed. So the next book is Such Sharp Teeth by Rachel Harrison. Now, if you've not read Rachel Harrison, again, you're missing out. Her books are very much girly pop, millennial style horror. If you are a millennial, I'm not saying you won't enjoy her books if you're not a millennial, but there's a lot of humour in there that I can relate to and a lot of characters in there that I can relate to. And her books are always just such a good time. Very girly horror. Such Sharp Teeth. Comparison. Hear me out. Twilight. Although it is not... It's not got vampires in it, in this one. But like the werewolf side, it kind of reminds me... This book reminded me of the second Twilight film. The one where Jacob is like the main character in it for a bit. That's the sort of vibes this was given. This actually is my favourite Rachel Harrison book, and I was not expecting that. Like, if you have heard her lineup of horror books, this is like a werewolf love story, it would be described as. And for me, I am not like a massive fan of werewolves, and certainly not a massive love story fan, but the characters and themes this delves into, so good. Like the themes especially. So she always relates her books to like wider themes. Like this, they're very unserious in the way that they go about. Serious in some of the way that she goes about the humour and the dialogue. But yeah, all of her books follow greater themes and deeper meanings. And yeah, this one just was chef's kiss. So we follow our main character, Rory, who is travelling back to her hometown after finding out her twin sister is pregnant and she needs help. Now, Rory's not very, like, close with her twin sister, and she's left her hometown for a reason. But she decides to do the good thing and go move there and help her sister. But the night she travels home in a car, something hits her car and then she gets out and she's attacked. Yeah, in this book, you've got a great sister relationship dynamic. I feel like that's quite authentic in this book. But you've also got like some quite darker themes in this as well. If you are prone to like triggering subjects, I would definitely check out the trigger warnings, because I don't want to give spoilers on this, but I'd check out the trigger warnings on Storygraph, because it does go quite deep into like some themes that some people might not be expecting. Because on the surface, this doesn't really, on the blurb, sorry, it doesn't really go into that. And you might actually be thrown off if you read this. But I wouldn't put that, like, it's not like an extreme horror by any means or anything. But yeah, maybe just check some of the triggers for this. But I just think he does a great job of tackling relationships, like trauma, and all in like a cozy sort of werewolf setting. I definitely think it goes into like the werewolf theme quite well. If you've seen the film Ginger Snaps, which I actually watched with my sister for the first time not so long back, it's kind of like that. Well, I definitely think it gets some influence from there as well. That and Twilight. If you like those films, then you would like this book. Rachel Harrison, to me, again, is just an author that I'm just going to read all of her books. I have just got, this is exciting news, guys, I have just got an arc of her new book, Kiss, Slay, Replay, which is a wedding time loop horror. Can't wait to read that. Let me know if you want a review once I have read it. But I can do a full breakdown of all of her books, because I've pretty much read them all except her short story collection, Bad Dolls. So yeah, let me know if you want a full breakdown of all of her books. And also, she's coming to the UK in October, and I could not be more excited. Don't even get me started, because I'm going to be there fangirling. Absolutely obsessed with her. I just think she's a refreshing and a very unique author. I love to call her a girly pop queen. So there we go. Such sharp teeth. Definitely one for Summerween. The reason why I like this for Summerween as well, I don't think I explained that. Werewolves, to me, I don't know why, but werewolves are very much Summerween. And this is set in like a small town. I believe, in my head anyway, it was set in the summer. So yeah, such sharp teeth. Now the next book is by an indie author, and I'm hoping to get more people on this author because this book was incredible. This author is called Isaac Nightingale. He's actually based in the UK, but I read this book, right? And because it's set in the US, in my head, I just instantly thought this author was from the US because it just sounds so authentic. Like, I know that this is me, like, coming from a person from the UK, but I just assumed that it was from the US. It was such a good book. And that book is the movie Bloodbath. Now, think Lost Boys. This book is set in like the 70s and 80s. Like, it's set over like several years. It's quite a long book, to be fair. Like, this is like 360 pages. So for an indie book, that's like quite long in my opinion. But I relished every single page of this book. And there's a second book as well, which I haven't read. Slap me, I know, because I need to read it. But yeah, this is vampires. In case you didn't get the Lost Boys reference, obviously. So, yeah, very much, like, nostalgic. I don't know, nostalgic, like, if anything, it kind of reminds me of, like, something that David Sodergren would write. So, again, if you're familiar with David Sodergren, the author that I was just speaking about in the first book of this video, definitely recommend this one. So, we start off in the early 70s, and we have a couple, and they are very much in love. I think they've just gone to the cinema. Yeah, they've just been at the movies, like the drive-in movies. I would absolutely love to go to a drive-in movie. Like, we don't have that in the UK. Well, we don't. I think they've started to kind of like do them in several places. But like, it's not like a normal thing for us to go to like a drive-in movie here. So yeah, they've just watched a film. They're going out for like the walk in the woods, maybe for like, I don't know, some alone time or whatever. And something happens where these vampires attack this couple, and their world turns upside down, or should I say, his world turns upside down because she's killed. Now, that isn't a spoiler, that is in the blurb, but I don't want to reveal more than that because this book is just such a journey of revenge. It is gritty. It's got like sort of a crime noir element to it as well, like in certain parts. I just think it's a whole journey, and I think it's just like an absolute ride, and everyone should read it. Again, like, if you like The Lost Boys, if you like vampires, if you like nostalgic, old school type horror, then you will love this. Like I say, I did not realise this author was based in the UK, and I initially read this book on like Kindle Unlimited because I believe it's on there too. Once I found out he was based in the UK, I ordered this book and I ordered his other book so I could get them signed because I love them that much. So yeah, I definitely need to get on to reading the second book. The second book is called Neon Nightmares, and yeah, like I say, I definitely need to read it. Maybe I should add that to my Summerween TBR because it's obviously very Summerween coded. But yeah, there's also werewolves in this one as well. So, again, obsessed. I spoke about 4 books that I recommend. Now I'm going to speak about 1, 2, 3, 4. I've actually got 5 books here that I want to read. Ambitious. I know. I always am. In fact, let me get... There's actually more, guys. I'm not going to lie. let's quickly talk about these two that I've had my eyes on for a little while. So this one I've seen on Instagram quite a lot, and that is Summer Camp for Slasher Victims by Matthew Mercer. Now, I've not read any books by him before, and this one I piqued my interest because it's set in a summer camp, but I really like the whole victim element of it as well. Like, so it's for people that have been traumatized and gone through some shit, and they go to this summer camp as sort of an escape and to like repair and to try and move on, and to go through like some counselling and all that jazz. But what they don't realise is they get to this summer camp and shit just goes down and it ends up being worse for them. I mean, I don't know why that's appealing to me, but obviously like it goes through... I think I just like the idea of like a slasher book being a little bit more serious and focusing on like those more traumatic personal elements. Like they're already traumatized, they've already gone through shit, which I believe this book will go into. But also like you've got like the slasher fun element as well. So like combining the two sounds really quite interesting to me. So it's like a more serious slasher, but not, I don't know. But yeah, that's one that I've got my eye on. The second book, following the summer camp slasher, the second one is called The Summer Fun Massacre by Craig DiLouie. Now this one follows like the more typical approach to like this type of horror, but it just piqued my interest because I've read Craig DiLouie before. I've read Suffer the Children by him, which is like quite a serious and emotional book, so I figured I wanted to read one of his books which is less serious, I guess. Follows two timelines, so we've got summer in the 80s and then summer in the 90s. So we've got like in the 80s, typical killer, kills a bunch of people in the summer camp. The summer camp shuts down. And then the 90s is it reopening. I don't know why they always decide to reopen like these summer camps. Just leave them shut, you know what I mean? They're quite bad. But yeah, I think this follows like a typical sort of summer camp slasher, and you've got like a couple of rural legends in there called the Hungry Hare. So yeah, it sounds like a bunch of fun. One that's not too serious that I can read during summer. So I've got 5 other recommendations. Let's go through them. The first book is by an author that I love, and that is Killer Summer by Wendy Dalrymple. So this is like, Wendy Dalrymple is, I don't know if you've heard me speak about her before, but I've just read a book a couple of months ago called Birthday Party Demon, which kind of was like a bit like Grady Hendrix, My Best Friend's Exorcism meets Goosebumps. And yeah, the thing I love about Wendy Dalrymple is her books all follow like different themes, like they have different subjects, they're all like different subgenres of horror. This one, again, a slasher, follows 2 timelines. But the interesting thing about this one to me is the main character, obviously. So we follow like the 1990s and then the present day. So this character in her younger days, and then now this character in her older days. So she's like middle-aged, I believe, and I love a middle-aged main character, especially a female one. I feel like there's not a load of books that go into that. And yeah, it's just about her dealing with her traumatic past. So in the 90s, she had a stalker and something happened, and then now she's like still dealing with that, and she's moved on. Like, it's set in Florida in present day, but she's still getting haunted by her past. And yeah, it just sounds really good. I just love Wendy Dalrymple's writing. I just think it's so Again, it's quite girly in places, and it's very relatable. This is only like a short read as well, so I definitely think I could read this like in a day, in one day. So I just want to like read this when I've got like several hours just to focus on it, and I can just have a couple of cocktails as well, maybe sit in the garden on a hot day. That's the kind of vibes for this book, I think. And yeah, the cover's really cool as well. Like, obviously it's giving summer. So very excited to read this. Now, the next book is Until the Sun by Chandler Morrison. This book, of course, is giving summer. However, this, I believe, will be more of a serious, transgressive book, because if you're not familiar with Chandler Morrison, that's the type of books that he writes. So what intrigues me about this one, though, is it is supposedly a coming-of-age story, and it's about vampires, and it's set in the summer. Those are elements I would not expect Chandler Morrison to write about, but obviously I believe it will follow his traditional writing style, which is more sarcastic, serious. Well, it's sarcastic and serious in one. I don't know how that can be a thing, but it is. Sarcastic, but with serious themes, if that makes sense. So I am obsessed with his books. But yeah, they are quite gritty, and they are quite violent and quite deep. So this one is about vampires. On the back it says responsibility, authority and morality. So I believe it's about all deeper element of like the vampire lore. So what you would do to give up your normal human life to be a vampire and to live forever. Like what does that cost you as a human and you as a conscious being? So we follow this young 15-year-old boy. It's set in August. This one young 15-year-old boy, as he views his foster parents getting murdered by vampires, and they offer him a deal to become a vampire, essentially, and he accepts it, and then he is constantly plagued by his decision. So yeah, it sounds fun. Yeah, like I say, I'm intrigued by this one because it's not something that I would expect Chandler Morrison to write about. He has written books typically before about exposing like LA and like going into like eating disorders and stuff like that. So yeah, this one is very intriguing to me and I can't wait to read it. He's another author again, which I just need to read all of his books. I've read about like 3 or 4 of them, I believe. So yeah, this is just one to tick off the list. One to read if you are transgressive sort of horror reader, but you still want a bit of Summerween vibes, you know what I mean? It's like probably the most serious one out of the pile. Yeah. Now, total opposite of that would be another summer camp slasher. I'm sorry, but like you need to read a summer camp slasher for Halloween, for Summerween, sorry. This one I got, actually I've not taken the sticker off. A place in the UK called The Works. I mean, if you're from the UK, you know. They usually don't do that many horror books in there, but I always like to go in just to look at the books, you know, even though there's not a lot of horror. I like to just look at the deals. I know that's quite sad. But actually, to my surprise, I went in one day and I saw this and I was like, oh my God, horror in The Works. That needs to be a thing, by the way. The Works, get on it. Because there's so many like fun horror books they could put in there. They don't need to put like, I don't know, like the most serious books in there. This one, Summerween. They need to get on Summerween because there's like so many readers that, like thriller readers as well, that read horror books, but they read like horror books that I would say are more fun and more like faster paced. Well, they definitely need to do that in the ways. Anyway, they've got this one. So let's not get ahead of ourselves. But this was like £3. And this came out, I believe, a couple of years ago. And this author, I think, is like a YA author. So I believe this is a YA book. Correct me if I'm wrong. However, this one looks really good. So we've got a girl who is playing a final girl in a summer camp, and she's just playing it as a role. However, things start to happen and she soon gets to experience that role for real. So yeah, I just think this sounds like a bunch of fun. Again, it's not long. It's 200 something pages. What else could I say about this? Oh yeah, so the girl who is the final girl is called Charity. And yeah, the idea of this camp is guests come in they pay to get an experience of being in a summer camp. And it's like a whole game. So it's like a terror maze, terror game. But the game becomes a reality when her co-workers start going missing. So yeah, this just sounds like a bunch of fun. And again, one of those books that I want to read in one sitting, where I've just got like nothing to do all day and I can just chill in the garden, have a couple of drinks. Bob's your uncle. This one definitely is that sort of vibe. I haven't read anything by this author, but I believe that she does like YA horror fantasy books. Let me know if you've read this, because I believe it was quite a popular one a couple of years ago. So I want to know if you've read it. So this sounds like a lot of fun. And that is Night of the Mannequin by Stephen Graham Jones. Night of the Mannequins, should I say, by Stephen Graham Jones. Now, I've read, you might be thinking, the more obvious choice for this reading recommendation list would be My Heart is a Chainsaw, which is a slasher. Which is a slasher series. I'm on the 3rd book of that, by the way, guys. It's really good. However, this one is... I picked this one because of the length, essentially. It's a novella. It's not too intense. I feel like My Heart is a Chainsaw is one of those that maybe takes quite a while to read. So that's not like sort of what this video is about. Like, I want to recommend books that are like quite easy to read. Stephen Graham Jones is notoriously known for being a love or a hate sort of author for a lot of people. You're either going to love his writing style or you're not going to gel with it. So if you've not read his books before, then it is probably best to go in like with a shorter one. And if you have read his books before and you just wanted something that's like short and sweet, this one. Not like I've read it yet, but this is set in summer. It's set as summer is winding down, so you might actually want to read this like, I don't know, the end of August, like beginning of September. No, not the beginning of September. Definitely the end of August. It's set in a mall, and it's essentially about these mannequins which come to life and start killing people. What more can you want? I just thought this sounded quite unique as well. Like, I've not read a book that's actually set in a mall, I don't think. Like, I've watched a couple of films like that, and I love them. Like, I love that style vibe. So yeah, we've got a group of friends. One last prank just to scare a friend. Bringing a mannequin into a theatre is just harmless fun until it wakes up, until it starts killing. Luckily, Sawyer has a plan. He'll be a hero. He'll protect everyone. He'll do whatever he needs to do to save the day. But the tricky thing about heroes is that sometimes you become a monster first. So yeah, it just sounds like a bunch of fun. When I bought this book as well, I believe like this is the US copy. I bought this book in Nottingham recently, And the bookseller actually said to me, he was like, are you sure you want to buy this book? Because it's like, I think it was like, I don't know, £12. Like, I don't actually know how much it was, but it was like a fair amount of money for a novella. I was just like, yeah, I need all of Stephen Graham Jones's books like right now, so I don't actually care how much it is. But I just thought that was a little odd. Like, you're a bookseller, mate. Try and sell me the book. No, it was being nice. But yeah, the gutting thing for me is Stephen Graham Jones actually came to the UK not so long back, and I got a ticket, but I didn't go because I felt so unwell, and I was just like, you know what, I'm not about trying to make everyone ill, especially Stephen Graham Jones. So I didn't end up going. So hopefully he comes again, because I absolutely love his books. And I just love what he's doing in the horror genre in general. Like, I know I keep saying this in this video, but like, he's adding like his own unique stamp to it. And I think a lot of his books, like, they are very well thought about. So I am intrigued to read this, because obviously it is quite shorter. It's not going to go as much into depth as like some of his other books. So it'd be nice to kind of experience how he writes a novella, if that makes sense. But yeah, Night of the Mannequins by Stephen Graham Jones. Final book is The Dorians by Nick Cutter. Now, if you've read The Troop by Nick Cutter, that would also be a recommendation for a Summerween reading list. However, this is his new book, so I wanted to talk about this. I actually thought that this was a follow-up from The Troop. Not like you can really have much of a follow-up from The Troop. Basically, I thought that it was set in like the same sort of world as The Troop, but it's not, I don't think. Don't know where I got that idea from. Essentially, it's probably because this is set on an island. So if you've read The Troop, that's set on an island as well. So maybe that's where I was getting confused. However, this one is about 5 older people partake in an experiment to take this like miracle drug to reverse aging. So like they're 5 older people, and I don't know how old exactly, but they are scared, don't want to die, they want to reverse aging, so they will go to any lengths to avoid that, and they want to take part in this experiment, and this drug apparently reverses that, and yeah, they get sent to this island to take this drug, essentially, and a whole lot of stuff happens. I think it's got a lot to do with like like sentient beings as well. Like they create something that has a life of its own, and essentially they don't know what they're dealing with. Like the whole thing, like with AI at the minute, it's kind of like giving that sort of vibe. Like we're creating this thing, we don't know what the hell we're actually creating, and it's just gonna fuck us over, essentially. That's what this book is about, I think. I summarised that pretty quickly, I think. But yeah, I don't think there's anything much more to say, except Stephen King's quoted it. He's put, "This troop scared the hell out of me." Okay, so maybe that was his quote for The Troop. So yeah, okay, so what annoys me, guys, I've noticed this from publishers recently. This could be a whole different video, but when they quote books, right, why are you not quoting the book that you're talking about? Like, for instance, we've got a quote from Clive Barker on this, on The Deep, which is another Nick Cutter's book, which is another book by Nick Cutter, right? But that's not this book, so I don't care. Like, it, you know what I mean? Like, quotes in general are a little bit, I don't know, they're a little bit questionable, because, you know, obviously they're just marketed. But, like, I don't care what they're saying about The Deep and The Troop. I care what they're saying about this book. And because obviously Stephen King, you've got a quote by Stephen King, you're going to put it. Obviously, I know why they do it, because Stephen King wouldn't have said anything about this book. He'll have said something about the troop, but they want readers to pick it up and think, oh wow, Stephen King. But he's not wrote about this book. He's not quoted this book. Anyway, it really annoys me that. So yeah, we've got a quote from Stephen King saying the troop scared the hell out of me. Not this book. A quote from Clive Barker on The Deep, not this book, saying utterly terrifying. Again, a quote by Scott Smith on The Troop saying lean and crisp and delightfully over the top, disquieting, disturbing, and it's also great fun to read. Okay, but what about this book? I want to know about this book. Anya Allborn, if you aren't claustrophobic now, you will be after you read The Deep. Has no one read this book? Is that what it is? I don't think we've had one single quote about this book on the back. Why is that? We've got a quote. Oh yeah, another quote about his other book, Little Heaven. All of the quotes are not about this book. So yeah, that's great. Maybe on the front. No. Clive Barker about The Deep. Okay, right. Yeah, I'm going off on one here, but can you see what I mean? Because I noticed this on another book that I had that was quoting Stephen King. What Stephen King had said, but it wasn't referring to the book that it was quoted on. Publishers, why? Obviously for marketing, but it's just fake. It just makes it more fake. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts on that anyway. But yeah, I do really want to read this. And yeah, I've only actually read The Troop by Nick Cutter. I need to read his other books. I really do want to read The Deep, Little Heaven. Also, The Queen, I picked up when it came out, but for whatever reason, I soft DNF'd it. Not for I didn't DNF it for any reason. I think I just get a bit distracted sometimes, so I just point down and then forgot about it. But yeah, anyway, this book sounds good. And again, older main characters is what I'm about. I love reading about older main characters. So yeah, you have got to the end of this video. If you have got to the end, let me know. And let me know out of all the books, which one you are going to read or you're going to pick up. Or if you have read any of them, let me know. I could go on about Summerween recommendations for days. But yeah, these are just the top of my priority or ones that I have read and I've absolutely loved. Like I say, the David Sodergren is the one that started all this off. So if you're going to take any recommendation from me, read Summer of Monsters by David Sodergren. It will honestly start off your Summerween reading list with a bang. Only 5 hours long. I read it in one sitting. Audiobook. Amazing. So yeah, let me know what you think of this video. If you haven't already, give this video a thumbs up and give me a follow. It'll mean the world to me. Let me know what you're reading at the minute. Let me know what you'd like to see. And yeah, I will see you next time. Bye everyone.